Thank you, Jill, for joining me today.
Mhm.
We are here to discuss your the latest article for EL called "Leading Together: Time to Power Up Teaching Practice."
Yeah.
So, before we even get into it, how did you get to that title?
So the title, Time to Power Up Teaching Practice, I think came from inspiration from the quote that I used at the beginning of the article. And so just to take a look at it, I quote Nelson Mandela: education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. And as we are in this dual pandemic and we're all, huddled in our homes with anxiety and trying to figure out, what's happened and what's going to happen, we think about ourselves as educators as a key influence, a key power, a superpower. I like the way she chose a super
Yes.
but if we can't uh, use this as a way to advance where we need to be in the world, no one can. We're positioned to do that. And so when I think about this notion of education being the most powerful weapon you can use to change the world, I just like the strong language of that, the way it
Yes.
really helps us to think about how we're taking this up as our superpower, taking this as our challenge and our charge to make the kind of changes this world needs to see.
What are the essentials teachers need to carry with them on their cape? And what are some things they can leave behind with their Clark Kent outfit?
I love that analogy. That's a great question. Well, I think one of the superpower that we need to take with us is the power to collaborate, uh,
Mm,
the power to connect with one another. We of course need to be connecting with students and with families as well. But when I think about the notion of creating the kind of education system that we want to see that can serve each and every student, there's no way that any individual teacher has what they need to serve each and every student. The only way we have that power to do that is collaboratively. We all have complementary knowledge and skills. We all have really different perspectives. And there's no reason why the students sitting in front of me should only be limited to the assets and expertise that I have. Each
right.
should benefit from the expertise that exists throughout our school. And so this notion of sort of hunkering down and siloing yourself and just sort of, doing what you're going to do for your students is really a disservice to students. I hope people leave that behind in the phone booth and the Clark Kent phone booth.
Yes.
I like to see teachers finding ways to collaborate, but I think that's where this article tries to provide a reminder that it shouldn't be teachers working against the system to collaborate.
Excellent.
Can you talk about some ways that teachers can adapt their grading and assessment policies for distance learning?
I cite a Minnesota teacher in the article who we were doing this remote learning PD event for some teachers there, and she said, my colleagues and we were just talking, we can't use our regular multiple choice tests because kids just Google the answers. I think, Ken, that COVID has really, let's say, put under the microscope issues around our grading and assessment practices that were there long before COVID, but have, like I say, been magnified. So if your learning intentions in your classroom have typically revolved around verbs such as memorize, define, recite, I think those teachers really struggled when students went into remote environments because they couldn't control the environment anymore. Like in their classroom, like, put all your phones away, no open book test, nothing like that. Now here's your test. And some of that might be pretty fact-based and kind of trivial pursuit style tests. And there's a place for that. Don't get me wrong. There's a place for understanding content and knowing content, for sure. But it's more around, for me, what you're going to do with that content knowledge. So you should, let's just use the planets, for example. You should probably be somewhat familiar with terms like Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, and you should be familiar with orbits and what's meant by atmosphere, and why does Venus have an incredibly dense one and us less so, and some planets none whatsoever. But what are you going to do with that information? I think our global education scene has shifted from who cares if you really know the order of the planets or the exact density of Venus's atmosphere? A better question might be, so could you consider a model for how humans might design a living environment on another planet? Now, what's the verb there? Design or model or create. If you were doing those kinds of assignments or questions in a remote or COVID environment, it's a heck of a lot more difficult for students to copy off one another because you've shifted the verbiage. I think we've just thrown the door open, Ken, to parents right now. Like, parents became the front row. Parents moved to the front row of education during COVID, right? Like, and there were plenty of things online about this that were awfully funny. So, what do we do with this? Parents, I think, are going to have a whole lot better idea about what a learning standard might be. They have a whole lot better idea of either the absence of a clear outcome for their student or a really clear one. Like they're like, well, what's my daughter supposed to be learning here? Resilience is about putting one foot in front of the other in the toughest times, and I got that from Max Eisen's book, By Chance Alone, Auschwitz survivor. And he just said in his book, the line I took from it is, when you're going through tough times, you put one foot in front of the other. So, I want to say that particularly around this COVID time, we're going to get through it. Our students are looking to us for mentorship and for strength. And on the toughest of days, we still have to show a bit of that. And we're going to be all right. Education in some ways will be even better for it. So, got to remain hopeful.